Hi everyone, Internet PCS book reader here. Today I want to talk about 24 Hours in Ancient Egypt, A Day in the Life of the People Who Lived There by Donald P. Ryan. I know more about ancient Greek since I really like their philosophies, and because of that I've read more about life back there from books like The Life of Philosopher that focus more about the society and life these ancient Greek philosophers lived back then, which gave me further understanding about what part of their life was mystified to the point of being more fictional than historical, and it also makes me appreciate more about their philosophy. Now, most of you guys will be aware that the book I mentioned at the start have nothing to do with Greek because you're smarter than me. When I bought this book at a second-hand bookstore, I read this as a 24 hours in ancient Greek instead of 24 hours in ancient Egypt. And for me, ancient Egypt is such an unknown thing. I know more about historical figures like some of the Caesars and of course Cleopatra, but I've only read a little bit more about the actual history from one small part of the book about poison that I've reviewed recently. So I thought I may as well make some lemonade from the lemon I got and learn more about ancient Egypt. Now compared to ancient Greek, Rome or even ancient China, there's not much left behind this history of ancient Egypt. It's because most people in ancient Egypt are illiterate. Those hieroglyphics that you wondered how do you even start reading them, most ancient Egyptians will agree with you. How do you even start reading them? Because of this, most documented history left behind by them was from the royal families or from religious texts. Most of the records from their daily life are from painting or sculptures. Yes, with carving on the walls that we see often, it helps that their tombs are equipped with food, clothing, furniture, etc. that they use in their daily life. And although it's not as many as their temples and rich people structure, some villages do still remain. It is from all of this that we can see how they live their lives sunset to sunset, 12 hours of the day and 12 hours of the night. It is unlike ours where we reset to zero every midnight. The Egyptians loved their land, believing it to be the best country on earth or whatever consists of their earth back then. They called their land Kemet, the Black Land, a fertile soil separated into two by the Nile Valley, separating the land into the upper and lower Egypt, with the Great Nile River becoming their source of drinking water, irrigation, and lots of fish. And at the edges of Egypt there's the Red Land, a large desert with many gold mines and oases. The Egyptians are also very religious people who worship hundreds of gods, as can be seen from the many temples and shrines that exist throughout the land of Egypt. Re, the sun god, and Atum, the creator god, Geb and Nut from the land and the sky, Shu and Tefnut from air and moisture, and most importantly for this book, Amun-Ra, the one who is credited to most for Kemet's success. With that background established, we go to Tibet at around 1414 BC during the reign of Amenhotep II, Akepure Amenhotep. It was during the New Kingdom era that lasted from 1550 BC to 1619 BC, an era of prosperity for the ancient Egypt. We start at the 7th hour of the night or around midnight in our time where a midwife was delivering a baby where they casted a spell for delivering the baby. Besides the spell, they also prepared the statue of the god Bes, the protector of household. It is BC and medical knowledge back then is very limited. They have to rely mostly on hope that came in the form of magic and religion instead of medicine. Most babies back then died a few months old and they often kept the same name for their babies until one survived. That's just how life expectancy was back then. Then at the 8th hour of the night or 1 AM of our time, Amenhotep II wakes up to do his duties for Ma'at, an ancient Egypt belief of balance and order that keep the universe and gods on their side. This section of the book goes to his history and the many achievements he made that gave him many nicknames, as can be seen in this hieroglyphic that you can read if you want. But other than that, let's move to the 9th hour of the night or 2 AM of our time, where we visit the embalmer. The mummy that we get to see in media is mostly the named one, but even common people in ancient Egypt can get an embalming if they can afford it. Ancient Egypt have enough mummies to be mobbed on metal slugs because of how many they are, and the embalmer are one of the busiest workers in ancient Egypt. This part of the book shows gruesome detail on how they do their work on each bodies, so content warning for that. It also shows why they are usually hated in their society despite their necessity. Then at the 8th hour of the night or 3 AM of our time, we visit a soldier. If you like ancient war, there's a great depiction on how the army works in ancient Egypt, and it even goes into the Battle of Megiddo. Then at 11th hour of the night or 4 AM of our time, we rudely woke a priest of Amun-Ra. Back then, to not make them too powerful, priests worked in shifts. A really good practice that unfortunately we stopped doing. Instead of telling our priests and other religious figures that they're replaceable, we idolize them now. This section details what priests of Amun-Ra and other gods do back then, including their duties and what accessories they need to wear for each rituals. Then we move to the 12th hour and final hour of the night or 5 a.m. more time to see the farmers waking up. This section is of course all about farming, what kind of weather and land condition they have, what they do to their land, how they prepare them, what they planted. This section makes me kinda curious what a harvest moon farming sim in ancient Egypt would be like. This section also have animal husbandry and fishing since it's also about food after all. Then we move to the first hour of the day or 6 a.m. of our time, when housewives mostly wake up and start doing their various jobs, milking the cows, feeding the children, making bread and beer, mending and washing clothing, tending to the animals, feed the family, working on the grains. It's actually not so much tasks ancient Egypt housewives are given, without any of the glory, because these are considered thankless jobs back then. And without waiting for any of them to finish any of their job, we move to the second hour of the day or 7 a.m. our time, where the overseer visit the quarry. While a lot of people nowadays are not able to comprehend how ancient Egyptians can make such large buildings, there are actually documented painting and writing about how this all done in the quarry, from how they cut stone blocks, how they make them to statues, and how they transported them. Thankfully, ancient Egyptians have more imagination and ingenuity compared to most modern conspiracy believers. We then move to the third hour of the day or 8 a.m. more time to get more detail about fishermen that has been briefly mentioned as the farmer friend. Fishermen is quite an intense job since in the Nile they will have to deal with the danger of hippos and crocodiles. That's why they bring in not just nets but also spears. Then on the fourth hour of the day or 9 a.m. our time, we have make a brief visit to the potter. We will make pot clays and plates to save food, etc. before we move on to the 5th hour of the day or 10 a.m. our time to visit the scribal students, the poor souls that needed to study hieroglyphics, back way before language uses phonetics. Then we go off the class on the 6th hour of the day or 11 a.m. our time to visit the priestess. Just like in ancient Greek where some gods are female, the ancient Egyptians also have goddesses who demanded priests to worship them instead of priests. The goddess Hathor is a bit like Dionysus. She loves music and dance and alcohol. A lot of alcohol as you can see depicted in this painting. We then leave these drunkards at 7 hours of the day or 12 p.m. our time to see the vizier. He's like a secretary whose job is to make sure that everything including foods and taxes are in order for the people in ancient Egypt. Of course, as usual with government, they usually care more about the process in temple and status compared to how the farmers are doing. And then we move on to the 8th hour of the day or 1 p.m. our time to visit the fan bearer. Not a person whose job is to fan Amenhotep but to be his right hand man, his advisor, especially during Amenhotep meetings at the palace with the foreigners. Then on the 9th hour of the day, we visit the royal wife. Unlike the housewife, there's not much the royal wife does. The royal wife used to be ruler of ancient Egypt, but during Amenhotep II's rule, it's been decades since the erasure of their power, and it continues here. Then in the 10th hour of the day or 3 p.m, we visit one of the most unique ancient Egypt professions, the professional mourner. As the title suggests, they were paid to look and sound dramatically sad in funerals. Then in the 11th hour of the day or 4 p.m. our time, we visit the architect. Yes, unlike what conspiracy theorists like to make believe, there are documented architects for the pyramids, even how they built them. The project for Amenhotep II's royal tomb has been going on for a long time. It started early when he's still alive, so even the painting inside the pyramid has been decided early and hopefully the tomb is finished before his death. Then in the 12th hour of the day or 5 p.m, we visit the carpenter who built the coffin. They usually work with the embalmer to know what kind of coffins they need to carve as seen in this painting. Then in the first hour of the night or 6 p.m, we visit the brickmaker. If you've seen primitive technology videos, you know it's a dirty and taxing job. Usually the job is given to foreign captives as seen in this painting. Then in the second hour of the night or 7 p.m, we see the house lady preparing for celebrating a marriage. A party is in order and someone has to plan who to invite and how much food and drink is needed. We then move to the third hour of the night or 8 p.m. before the party ended to go visit the jeweler. As mentioned at the start, there's a gold mine nearby and ancient Egyptians love their blings. So the jewelers are always busy making them, which are actually quite a dangerous and taxing job since smelting with ancient technology is not exactly easy task. We move to the 4th hour of the night or 9 p.m. for a brief visit to the dancing girls, one of the entertainers back then. Then in the 5th hour of the night or 10 p.m. to visit the physician who is doing his best with the limited medical knowledge back then, again even relying on spells. Before finally we close the whole day in the 6th hour of the night or 11 p.m. to see the perspective of a tomb robber. Quite a big problem in ancient Egypt since rich people prefer to be buried with all their treasure back then instead of sharing any of them. Ancient Egyptian is one of those places that have so deeply mysterious feel to them, partly because of how media often depicted them, but also partly because of how superstitious as a country they are, and because how their customs are so much different and there's so little left behind that people often like to fill in the blanks with our own imagination. And I think that's why so much weird conspiracy theories pop up from ancient Egypt, because there's a part of our brain that goes, that would be so cool if that was true, involved with those conspiracies, which is true. Some of these conspiracies sounded cool, which is cool if we see it as fiction, which it is, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people who don't see them as the fiction they are. There are people who unironically still think that the pyramid have more meaning to them other than just burial tomb for rich and powerful people back then, even though stacking stone are just things that people can do anywhere, and making big things has always been a weird flag that historically almost every country ever has done. That's why books like this that help us fill those blanks with historical records instead of our own flawed imagination can really help at unintentionally debunking those conspiracies. It uses trace of what the people back then has left behind during their lives and manage to tell a compelling story based on those that are far more interesting than any conspiracies can be. I give this a 4.25. What do you think? Let me know if I miss anything, so leave your thoughts in the comment below and subscribe to the channel. Let's spoil it.